weeks. I don't know where our guest is. We're looking around where he's going to arrive from, but clearly he missed me because as soon as I come back, there he is.
Did you miss me?
We did. Stephen A., how did we get so lucky to have you this morning? How are you? And you don't need to tell us where you are because it's clearly not New York.
You know, I thought about Molly being on vacation, and I thought about her missing me so much.
Yep.
You know? And I thought about my man RC, and I thought about him missing me so much. And of course, Mr. CIA himself, I heard he was going to be on there and stuff like that. And, you know, so I just said, you know, I'm just going to chime in at my, you know, I'm here in L.A., and I just said, you know, let me just chime in with the fellas. I miss y'all. I know I am missed. And let me just show my face just for a few minutes there. And that is why I am here. What's up, Pete?
Stephen A.,
what's up?
Though, I got to say one thing before we get back to it. I'm glad that you came back because there's some hot topics that happened that I definitely want to get your take on before you say goodbye.
He's the only man that won't allow you to compliment him.
Yeah, get out.
Because he gets in front of it.
He gets in front of it.
I know
Just in case you miss it. He just wants to have all the bases covered. You know he plays ball control. You know what it is. You know what it is.
There's
All
no
right,
reason,
Stephen A., I want to get your...
to delay. I mean, why wait for it?
Oh, my goodness. S.A., I don't know what you heard, but I want to get your thoughts on the Hurts conversation. So our guy, Cam Newton, obviously former Super Bowl MVP, said about Jalen Hurts that he's not okay, you heard it, not a top 10 quarterback, and that he benefits so much from that talented offense that he has. Where are you on this conversation?
Well, Cam's wrong. I do think that Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League right now. He's a reigning, defending Super Bowl champion, and when you called upon him to step up and produced on an elevated level, he has done so. So we got to give credit where credit is due with that and stop judging this brother so harshly. But in the same breath, I do understand where Cam is coming from, and we have to understand and appreciate that he's one of the rare individuals in the history of sports to have the license to take the position that he has taken, not because he was a former football player, not because he was just a former league MVP, but because we know that he was asked to carry the Carolina Panthers on his back. He never had the luxury of having an A.J. Brown and a Devontae Smith and a Saquon Barkley at his disposal. And so he's looking at it from the standpoint of the responsibility that you're asked, the onus that you're asked to have placed on your shoulders, and whether or not you answer the call under those conditions. I understand where he's coming from with that. I respect his position, but nevertheless, I still disagree because I think that when we look at Mahomes, we look at an Allen, we look at obviously a Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and others. I mean, we stand there with those four, and then after that, it's a crapshoot. You're talking about Goff, you're talking about Stafford, you're talking about Herbert and other guys, and don't tell me, you know, even a Baker Mayfield, for example, is listed by some as a top 10 quarterback. Don't tell me that Jalen Hurts doesn't belong in that category, considering the way that he's played. I will say this, though, and we have to monitor this, and there's a level of consistency that we have to bring to the table in this regard. When we look at Aaron Rodgers, we said he had a down year. Aaron Rodgers threw for nearly 4,000 yards. He completed more than 63% of his passes. He threw for 28 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. And we said that was not good. And we understand that more comes to it than just those stats. And please understand that. I know who I'm talking to. The flip side to it is Jalen Hurts threw 18 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Yeah, he completed about 68% of his passes, but it was considered relatively pedestrian numbers. And then remember, guys, how you all had to come on the air with me last year, and we were talking about how A.J. Brown was complaining about balls not being thrown in his direction. People were saying that he was more game managing because you had Saquon Barkley playing lights out, and obviously you had a coach that was deferential to that. And then Jalen Hurts goes out, shows out in the game with A.J. Brown in the immediate aftermath of all of that. It says, is that what y'all were looking for? Giving us an indication he can do what's necessary. And that's what he's saying. I can do what you need me to do. You need me to throw more? Fine. Yep. You need me to throw less and run more? Fine. You need me to hand it off to Barkley? Fine. You need me to hand the ball off and then produce, passes and pressurized situations? Fine. You need me to contribute to a romp in the NFC Championship game, and then the Super Bowl over Jaden Daniels, and then after Patrick Mahomes? Fine. You need me to appear a bit more competitive against lesser quarterbacks? What do you need? The thrills, the excitement, whatever the hell you need, I'm capable of doing it. So he's a top 10 quarterback, but I still do respect where Cam Newton was coming from. It's not like, he was just insulting the brother. He's saying that, Joe, when I played, this is what I was asked. This is the litmus test y'all put me under and how y'all judged me. So a lot of times you see superstars that have played in this game and have played throughout professional sports. They're looking for the litmus test to be consistent, and I think that's what Cam Newton was doing.
Well, I think what Stephen A is pointing to is perspective, right? Like my perspective is always undrafted free agent that was cut and had a regular job when I played in the NFL at some point. And so I look at things from that perspective. Cam's perspective is I was asked to do all of these things, and I had like Devin Funchess and Kelvin Benjamin. And what would I have done if you saw what I did when I had Steve Smith. What would I have done if I had Devontae and if I had A.J. Brown? And I get that, but we can't penalize Jalen Hurts or we can't penalize these other players because they have general managers and teams and organizations that put the right pieces around them. Like, we have to remember when Jalen Hurts took over for Carson Wentz, he wasn't supposed to be the guy. And things didn't go without adversity in that first year when you think about their exit against Tampa Bay. But the very next year, after we watched him get blown out in the wild card game, he was second in MVP voting. He had a season that had him second team All-Pro. He outdued Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And all of those things have to factor in. If we can look at Lamar Jackson and say, Lamar Jackson, as great as you are, we can't count you in that conversation because against Patrick Mahomes and against Steve Spagnuolo, we didn't see the best you were. What we've seen from Jalen Hurts is actually better than what his best has been in other situations. You can only do what you're tasked to do, and you're asked to do that to the highest of your potential, and that's what Jalen Hurts has done.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Stephen.
Well, I think. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike T.
Yeah, I was just going to say the context and why I think Cam is wrong, and I don't agree with your take, Stephen A, is this. The context is he had great players around him, but he delivered. I think there's an enormous amount of fair criticism if they lose in the championship game or even if they lose in the Super Bowl, but he delivered. And how many times have we said, hey, you know, Joe Burrow had great receivers, didn't get it done because of the defense, and we make all these sort of excuses. Like, he's checked every box, and to me, he's rightfully earned the mantle of being a top 5 quarterback because he was successful, and we shouldn't hurt him because he has great players around him. He, to me, took what he had and maximized their value. Well, that is the ultimate definition of greatness.
Well, first of all, I applaud you because you made a point there. And you know what? Usually when it comes to you, Mr. Seattle,
don't do that, man.
I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So let's give credit where credit is due, buddy. I mean, that's my guy, right? RC, Dre, RC, y'all don't know our history. I used to interview Mike T every week when I was doing radio in New York years ago. I have never in my life, when you're trying to soak information out of somebody, I have never in my life sat there and been compelled and interested in a conversation with somebody and then walked away 20 minutes later. What
like, no answers.
I don't know if I got anything out of it. No answers. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. He's special. He's special. Exactly. I mean, it's fantastic. So I applaud you for that. That's number one. Number two, I would say you of all people are making me laugh with your take, Mike T, because here's the reality. I'm not saying that anybody's throwing shade on Jalen Hurts. I'm saying that we need to understand the perspective that RC alluded to also applies to Cam. Cam is a player in this league that was religiously called upon to carry a load. Now, if you stand next to him, you see what a mammoth of a